Welcome to another amazing episode of our movie. Trust me, you are going to love this one. I bet you. At the end of the movie, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to get more of our latest films. Just relax and enjoy. The story begins with Johnny's mom bringing Johnny's new wife, Mimi, from the village to Lagos. They haven't married yet, but she wants Johnny to marry her. Though Johnny is not in the country and is already married abroad, his mother insists that he get a Nigerian wife from the village, so she takes it upon herself. Mimi is excited to be in Lagos since she's never been there before and admires Johnny's house, which she assumes will soon be hers once they are married. Johnny's cousin, Usher, comes out to welcome them, and they all exchange pleasantries. Mimi is surprised when he introduces himself as Usher because she knows him as Cheen Emelum. She jokes about the name because it's rare, and then Usher leads them to their room. After a while, they come down and Usher asks what they would like to eat, as he is willing to prepare it for them. Johnny's mom says she's not hungry, and Mimi asks if Usher would really be the one to cook for them. Usher replies that he is a gentleman and can cook. Mimi asks what he knows how to cook, and Usher lists pasta, noodles, tea, bread, and boiling water to its maximum temperature. Mimi laughs and says they actually brought soup ingredients from the village, so after she's done resting, she will cook. Usher is happy because it's his favorite food, and he leaves. Later that night, Usher is on a call with Johnny. Johnny tells him he wants to marry Mimi because his mother is pressuring him. Usher is surprised and asks if Johnny is serious, considering he's already married abroad. Johnny explains that he has to make his mother happy, as she has been nagging him for a long time. He asks Usher to stand in for him as the groom during the introduction and traditional wedding since he won't be around. Usher agrees, and they end the call. Wow, so Mimi is going to be a second wife without knowing it. That's crazy. The next day, the wedding takes place, and Mimi is overjoyed. However, Usher is the one who stands in for Johnny. Finally, Mimi is married. That's good, right? The next morning, Johnny's mom is on a call with him, thanking him for making her happy and praying for him. Johnny asks where Mimi is, and his mom calls her. Mimi quickly runs out, and Johnny's mom hands her the phone. Mimi talks to Johnny, expressing how happy she is, and asks when he will return so she can be with him. Hearing this, Johnny's mom is shocked and couldn't believe Mimi said such a thing. She gives the phone back to Johnny's mom, leaving her wondering. Later that day, Usher's girlfriend shows up unexpectedly. Usher is surprised since she didn't tell him she was coming. He politely asks her to come back after his visitors leave, but she takes offense and gets angry. As she walks away, she stops and asks for the money Usher promised for her shopping. He assures her she will get it, and she leaves. On her way out, she runs into Mimi and asks if she is Usher's guest. Mimi is irritated by her tone and expression, and the gate man later tells Mimi that the woman is Usher's girlfriend. Mimi is surprised and starts wondering how things will go. When Mimi enters the house, she sees Johnny's mom dancing and singing, so she joins her. Usher asks why they are dancing, and Johnny's mom announces that his sister Nancy has just had a baby. Usher is surprised, as he didn't know Nancy was even pregnant since she had kept it a secret from the family. Johnny's mom continues dancing in celebration. Meanwhile, Usher is on a call with his girlfriend. She accuses him of cheating on her, thinking Mimi is his girlfriend. His girlfriend then insults Mimi, calling her a classless human and a dirty pig. Usher warns her not to talk about Mimi like that. He explains that Mimi is his brother's wife and is visiting with their aunt, Johnny's mom, and he angrily ends the call. At the same time, Mimi is in her room, talking on the phone with Johnny. She expresses concern that Johnny's mom will soon leave for Hormagor, and she will be alone in the house since Usher is always going out. Johnny reassures her, saying he will start a business for her to keep her busy so she won't feel lonely. Mimi agrees, and they end the call with a kiss. The next morning, Johnny's mom is about to leave. She sends Mimi out to get something so she can leave without Mimi noticing, knowing that if Mimi finds out, she might cry because they have grown attached to each other. She then quickly left. After a while, Mimi came in and asked Usher where Mama was going because she saw her in a car outside. Usher explained that Mama had gone back, and Mimi felt bad, saying Mama should have waited so she could say goodbye. Usher calmed her down, telling her he would fill in for Mama. But Mimi looked at him angrily, asking who he thought he was, and then left. The next morning, Usher came in with his girlfriend after they had gone shopping. As they entered, his girlfriend dropped her bags and kissed him romantically. Usher stopped her and suggested they go upstairs because of Mimi's presence in the house. She scoffed, saying, "Isn't she a village girl? What does she know?" Then they went upstairs. After a while, Usher went into Mimi's room and gave her a small pack of snacks, which Mimi appreciated. Usher then tried to comfort Mimi, as she was still sad that Mama had left. Mimi stood up and brought out the clothes she had washed for Usher. He was surprised, noting that Mimi had washed his clothes, something his girlfriend had never done before. He was impressed and sincerely thanked her before leaving. Usher returned to his room, where his girlfriend quarreled with him because he had checked on Mimi and because Mimi had washed his clothes. She was also upset that Usher had given Mimi one of the items they bought. Frustrated, she stood up and walked out, with Usher calling after her. The next morning, Usher's friend came to visit. As they talked, the friend mentioned he had stepped out to get food, and Usher asked about his cook. The friend replied that she had traveled, and he complained about having to eat out. He said it would be nice to have a good chef. Usher mentioned that his brother's wife, Mimi, was staying with him and cooked for him. The friend was impressed and asked if she cooked well, to which Usher enthusiastically replied, "Very, very well." His friend dropped off the file he came with and left. Not long after, Mimi approached Usher and asked him to talk to his friend, suggesting she could cook for him and get paid. Usher refused, saying Johnny wouldn't like it. Mimi insisted she would talk to Johnny about it first, and then she left. The next day, Usher and Mimi were sitting in the living room discussing when Usher's girlfriend came downstairs, asking for more money. She complained that the money Johnny had given her wasn't enough. Usher was surprised, saying he had already given her 1.5 million naira in the past 2 weeks, and now she needed more. He told her to cut down on her spending since she wasn't working, which made her angry. She accused Johnny of insulting her because she didn't have a job. Johnny apologized and promised to send the money, and then she left. As soon as she was gone, Mimi turned to Usher, shocked by the amount of money he had given her in the past 2 weeks. She asked what the girlfriend had used the money for, and Johnny explained it was for a wig that cost 1 million naira and 5,000 naira for an aso ebi. Mimi was surprised and scolded Johnny, saying it was foolish to spend such a large amount on her. As they were talking, a call came in for Johnny, which Mimi answered. It was about the job Mimi wanted to start, but Johnny wasn't happy with the idea. He reminded her that he had given her enough money, and she didn't need to work. Mimi disagreed, saying she wanted to contribute to the home and not always rely on her husband. After much pleading, Johnny finally agreed, and Mimi and Usher continued their conversation. The next morning, Usher's friend came over again, and they talked about how good Mimi's food was. Wow, it seems Mimi has started her cooking job. Usher's friend really enjoyed her meal and paid her well, declaring that it was the best food he had ever tasted. Usher appreciated the compliment. Later that day, Mimi returned from the market and sat down with Usher. She thanked him for connecting her with his friend, explaining that his friend had now connected her to other people. After cooking for those people, they paid her well, and she was very happy. She gave Usher a gift as a token of appreciation. Usher thanked her, and when he opened the gift, he was surprised to find a Bible and a clipper. Mimi explained that she noticed Usher didn't pray much, so she got him the Bible, reminding him that it's important to pray and put God first in everything. Usher appreciated the thought. Mimi also said she bought him the clipper because she didn't like how he wasted money getting his hair cut every 2 days, which annoyed her. From now on, she said he could cut his own hair, and if he didn't know how, she would help him. Usher was deeply touched by her thoughtfulness, realizing how rare it was to find such a good woman. They talked further and hugged in appreciation. So guys, later that day, they both cooked together in the kitchen and enjoyed their time. Together, Usher also helped in assisting her. The next morning, Mimi heard a knock on the door, went to open it, and saw that it was Usher's girlfriend. Mimi welcomed her, but Usher's girlfriend didn't respond and instead looked at her with irritation. She asked where her baby was, referring to Usher, but didn't wait for an answer. She insulted Mimi, and as Mimi tried to walk away, she stopped her. Mimi then looked at her and prayed to God to take away any spirit of anger, warning her not to cross boundaries or she would beat her up. Then, Mimi walked away. Later, Mimi was sitting on the couch in the living room when Usher's girlfriend came in, shouting at her for finishing the juice in the fridge. She insulted Mimi and asked if this was her house. Mimi replied, asking if it was Usher's girlfriend's house. Furious, Usher's girlfriend moved to slap her, but Mimi immediately stood up, ready to defend herself. At that moment, Usher came and stopped them, and Mimi walked away. Usher tried to calm his girlfriend, but she didn't listen and threatened that either Mimi would leave the house that day or she would. Usher explained that Mimi couldn't leave because the house belonged to her, which surprised Usher's girlfriend. She walked out on him. The next morning, Mimi was in the living room watching TV, and Usher was there on his laptop, lost in thoughts about Mimi. He realized he was falling in love with her, but knew she was already taken. He sighed, thinking he would have to find another woman. A plane? Guess who's on the way, guys? Wow, it's Johnny. He got home and appreciated Usher for helping him maintain the house. They sat down, drinking together, when Mimi entered and was surprised to see Johnny. She ran to him and hugged him happily. Guys, she was so full of joy when she saw him. It was awesome. She quickly ran to prepare something for him, but as she was going, she rushed back to hug him again until she was satisfied, and then left. Johnny was impressed and found it amusing, saying she was very funny. Later that day, Johnny came out while Usher was sitting on the couch and joined him. Johnny told him he wanted to call his wife abroad, and Usher asked to speak with her as well. But when Johnny called, to his surprise, his wife accused him of enjoying his time with his Nigerian wife, which shocked him. He tried to deny it, asking where she got that information. She threatened to end their marriage and said he would lose his children and everything, leaving him panicked. Sometime later, Johnny called his mom and explained the situation, but she told him to leave the wife abroad and focus on Mimi. He refused, saying he couldn't lose all he had worked for or his children. That night, Johnny discussed the matter with Usher, who suggested he tell Mimi the truth, but Johnny refused, not wanting to break her heart. When Johnny tried to call his wife again, he discovered she had blocked him, and he panicked, saying he didn't want to lose everything. Usher reassured him, saying their family never gives up. Later, Johnny sat with Mimi in the living room while she watched a series. She noticed his troubled expression and asked what was wrong. Johnny lied, saying his business was facing trouble and he needed to go back quickly to sign a deal. Mimi wasn't happy, but he promised to return in a week, and she eventually accepted. That night, Johnny called a family meeting in the living room and confessed everything to Mimi. She was heartbroken, realizing they had used her as a backup plan. She walked away in tears. The next morning, Mimi called Mama, pouring out her pain as she cried and blamed her for not telling her the truth. Mama explained that she loved her and wanted her to be part of the family, saying that if she had told her, Mimi wouldn't have married Johnny. She apologized, and Mimi ended the call, continuing to cry. That morning, Johnny packed his bag and was about to leave. Usher escorted him, and Johnny told him they should go back to the village to collect the bride price so Mimi would be free to live her life again, acknowledging that she was a good woman. Johnny gave Usher some US dollars to give to Mimi to help her start her life again, and he shook Usher's hand in appreciation before they both left. Later that day, Usher brought something for Mimi, but she rejected it, saying she wasn't hungry even though she hadn't eaten for 3 days. Usher insisted, pleading with her, and she finally accepted. The next morning, Usher went to Mimi's room to ask her to go out with him, but she refused. He pleaded with her, saying it would be fun, but she still declined, telling him she would be going back to the village that weekend. Usher continued to plead with her. Usher offered to get her a new apartment so she could start her life afresh, but Mimi still insisted she would go back to the village, leaving Usher with no choice. Later that night, Usher came home drunk, and Mimi was surprised. She asked him what happened, and he confessed, despite being drunk, that he loved her. He cried, begging her not to leave and go back to the village. Mimi couldn't bear his behavior and ran inside, while Usher continued to cry. The next morning, Usher was sitting in the living room when Mimi came and asked if what he had said the previous night was true. Usher confirmed that everything he said was true, admitting that he had always liked her. Without hesitation, he immediately asked her to marry him. Mimi, shocked, quickly excused herself and went to the kitchen, overwhelmed by the surprise. The following morning, Mama visited, and Mimi told her what Usher had said. Mama replied that she was aware of it and explained that Usher had liked her since the day he met her, but couldn't confess because of Johnny. Mama pleaded with Mimi to give Usher a chance, assuring her that he would take good care of her and that she wouldn't regret it. As they were discussing, Usher entered the room, and Mimi immediately stood up and went to him, saying she wanted to give their relationship a chance. Usher was overjoyed and gave her a forehead kiss as they hugged each other. What a beautiful love story. Who would have believed that Usher would be the one end up with Mimi in the end? Isn't that amazing? So what did you learn from this amazing story? Make sure to drop your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for watching this incredible story in my world of movies. Please don't forget to like, share, care, and subscribe to this channel to get more interesting and fascinating stories like this one. See you in our next movie.